Across the U.S., a quiet shift is happening, and it starts at the border. Towns are quieter, malls sit half empty, and in some states, business owners are asking the same question. Where did the Canadians go? In 2025, it's not just fewer vacations, it's canceled reservations, shrinking paychecks, and entire communities feeling the pinch. And many Canadians have shared something deeper, a growing discomfort with how they're seen, talked about, and treated by some U.S. leaders. After our recent video on the Canadian travel pullback, many of you pointed out something important. We barely scratched the surface. So today, we're uncovering 7 more U.S. states that once relied on Canadian dollars and are now quietly paying the price. But before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe, because this isn't just about lost tourists, it's about how losing one neighbor can shake an entire economy. Number 1, Maine. For generations, Maine was a weekend ritual for Canadians, especially Quebecers. They crossed the border to fill up their tanks, buy groceries, or unwind in coastal towns like Bar Harbor and Old Orchard Beach. But in 2025, those familiar roads are going quiet. According to CBC News, crossings into Maine from Canada have dropped sharply, and border towns are struggling to adjust. In places like Calais and Houlton, gas stations and outlet stores built around Canadian day trippers are reporting double-digit sales declines. Some restaurants have reduced hours. A few have already shut their doors. And it's not just tourism that's fading, it's a lifestyle. For decades, Canadian and American communities along this border moved in sync. Families grocery shopped across the line. Hockey fans drove down for games. But now, with fewer crossings, that economic rhythm is broken. One business owner in Calais put it bluntly, "The bridge is still open, but the Canadians just aren't coming." Maine's economy might not depend on international travel the way Florida does. But for these rural towns, even a few thousand missing Canadians can mean the difference between staying open and closing forever. And Maine isn't the only place where that silence is starting to feel permanent. Number 2, Vermont. Vermont has always been a postcard-perfect escape. Ski slopes in the winter, foliage in the fall. And for Canadians, especially those from Quebec, it was practically a tradition. Each October, the highways turned red and gold, packed with families from Quebec making their annual drive south. But with tensions still simmering in 2025, this coming fall may not look the same. At J-Peak or Stowe, you'd hear French spoken on every lift. Families crossed the border in droves to ski, dine, and shop, often spending thousands in a single long weekend. But this past winter, resort operators saw a shift they didn't expect. Canadian bookings were down. Even season pass renewals from regular cross-border skiers dropped off. Hotels are offering steeper discounts, trying to fill rooms that once booked themselves. And while Vermont's tourism industry is still running, it's running lighter. One ski instructor in Burke noted shorter wait times, not because of better service, but because fewer guests ever showed up. In a rural state where tourism supports over 30,000 jobs, even a quiet winter sends shockwaves. That means fewer shifts for hospitality workers, less income for small shops, and tighter budgets for seasonal towns that count on those tax dollars. It's not a collapse, but it's a contraction that's being felt on every street. And further south, one of America's largest states is watching a much louder economic silence take hold. Number 3, Texas. Texas may not be the first place that comes to mind for Canadian travel. But for tens of thousands of snowbirds, especially from Alberta and British Columbia, it's long been a winter tradition. From the Rio Grande Valley to Corpus Christi, Canadian travelers once filled RV parks, motels, and small-town diners. Their dollars flowed into pharmacies, golf courses, car repair shops, and restaurants, sustaining whole communities during the off-season. In recent years, those winter dollars added up to over $1 billion annually across southern Texas. But this past snowbird season, something changed. RV parks that once had waiting lists now sit half empty. Service jobs, often tied to seasonal tourism, are being cut. Small businesses in border towns say it's the quietest winter they've seen in a decade. Some Canadians now say Texas just feels too politically extreme, from gun laws to immigration rhetoric. Even those willing to return admit their friends aren't coming back. And for many, it's not just about policy, it's about perception. The way Canada is sometimes dismissed as a passive 51st state leaves a lasting sting. In Texas, it's not just snowbirds going missing. It's a steady flow of money, trust, and connection, disappearing town by town. And as you move east, another sun-soaked state known for its southern charm is starting to feel the silence too. Number 4. South Carolina. Myrtle Beach was practically a second home for Canadian vacationers. Each spring, tens of thousands arrived from Ontario and Quebec, staying weeks at a time in condos, hotels, and beachside rentals. By 2023, Canadian visitors made up more than 5% of all international arrivals, according to local tourism boards. But earlier this year, that warm weather wave cooled. Hotel operators in the Grand Strand reported softer bookings from foreign travelers. Golf courses are offering more aggressive discounts. And some restaurants that once catered heavily to seasonal visitors say they're no longer bothering with bilingual menus. It's not a full collapse. Myrtle Beach is still busy. But the absence of Canadian snowbirds has forced some businesses to cut back hours, reduce seasonal hires, and rethink expansion plans. And it's more than just revenue, it's reliability. Canadians used to book early, stay longer, and spend steadily. Now, that predictable foundation is gone. A condo manager put it best. It's not that business is bad, it's that the Canadians were consistent, and now they're not. That shift may not make headlines. But for beach towns built on routine and return visitors, it's being felt where it matters most. And just up the coast, another state is watching a similar story unfold. Number 5, New Jersey. For Canadians flying into New York or road tripping through the Northeast, New Jersey was always a stop along the way. Outlet malls, casinos, and beach towns made it an easy add-on. But in 2025, that convenience is no longer enough. Retailers near Jersey Gardens and the Mills report a drop in Canadian foot traffic. Luxury outlets that once thrived on cross-border shoppers are seeing more browsers than buyers. Some have trimmed staff or scaled back store hours. Atlantic City's casinos also feel the shift. Though harder to track, hospitality groups note fewer bookings from longtime Canadian guests. It's not politics here, it's practicality. Many say better value now exists elsewhere. With weaker exchange rates and longer border delays, the trip no longer feels worth it. But behind the falling numbers is something deeper. A sense among Canadians that their presence isn't valued like before. From dismissive comments to jokes about Canada's place in the world, it adds up. And for some, the cost of feeling unwelcome outweighs the cost of a weekend away. And farther south, one state's cultural tension is turning into real financial strain. Number 6, Georgia. Atlanta used to be a magnet for Canadian travelers. World-class concerts, sporting events, food festivals, all just a flight away. Add in historic sites and family attractions, and Georgia became a rising star for international tourism. But in 2025, that buzz is quietly fading. Travel agencies in Canada reported fewer bookings to Georgia, and on the ground, hotel managers in Atlanta say the international shoulder seasons, spring and fall, are noticeably softer. Why? Some point to the headlines: voting laws, protests, political tension. Others say it's simply about comfort. Georgia feels less welcoming than it once did. It's not about tourists being political. It's about them being selective. And for a state that earned over $4 billion from international tourism just a few years ago, even a modest pullback from Canada can shift quarterly revenue projections. Restaurants, hotels, and rideshare drivers, many say it's not a collapse but a slow fade. One concierge noted, "You don't always notice the Canadians when they're here, but you feel it when they're not." Georgia's still a draw, but the dependable crowds from the north aren't showing up like before. And in the Midwest, another long-standing cross-border connection is showing signs of strain. Number 7, Minnesota. For decades, Canadians from Manitoba and Saskatchewan crossed into Minnesota to shop, ski, or just enjoy a long weekend away. It was close, affordable, and familiar. But now, many of those regulars are staying home. Retail centers in Duluth and Grand Forks report lower Canadian traffic, especially during key holiday weekends. Cross-border spending, once a major boost for local businesses, has taken a visible dip. Some boutique stores and outlet chains say they're rethinking hours and staffing, especially during what used to be peak Canadian influx. It's not politics this time, it's economics. Weaker exchange rates, higher gas prices, and tighter discretionary budgets have changed the equation. And in a few cases, Canadians say U.S. border experiences just feel more tense than before. The impact isn't catastrophic, but it's cumulative. And for a state that quietly relied on steady Canadian commerce in small towns, it adds up. One store owner in International Falls said, "It's not like we lost 1 million people, but we lost our regulars, and that's who kept us stable." Stability may not sound exciting, but for many businesses in rural America, it's the only thing keeping the lights on. What's happening in these 7 states isn't just a dip in tourism. It's a quiet shift with real economic consequences. When Canadians stop showing up, entire towns feel it, from lost jobs to shuttered storefronts. Have you seen the impact where you live? Or are you one of the Canadians who decided to stay home this year? Let us know in the comments. And if this video helped you see things differently, hit that subscribe button. There's more coming soon. Because this isn't just about where people travel. It's about how respect, or the lack of it, travels too.